Welcome to the Who's Left podcast, a show about Indiana politics, history, and culture from the unapologetic perspective of the Hoosier left. My name is Scott Aaron Rogers, and I'm recording from Bloomington. How about that new video introduction over on Substack and YouTube? I'm proud of that little project. Not bad for a team of one. So check that out and subscribe over on those channels if you're usually an audio-only listener. And not that it's much to look at, but, come see my face. Anyway, enough about that. Let's turn to our topic today. So, as you know, I've been focusing on Christian nationalism all summer, speaking with a trio of experts on the subject. Then, last week, I spoke with State Senate candidate Joel Levi, whose faith pushes him to reject religious extremism and lean into inclusivity, compassion, and empathy. So, as we arrive at Labor Day weekend, football season kicks off, and we enter the home stretch leading up to Election Day, I thought it time to focus on some of the other priorities our state-level candidates are emphasizing, but to quote Al Pacino's Michael Corleone in The Godfather Part III, just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in. And the truth is, in red states like Indiana, you can't escape the grip of Christian nationalism. Over the last several years, religious zealots like Mike Pence, Curtis Hill, and Todd Rokita in this state have used the power of government to insert their extreme views into our bedrooms, classrooms, and doctors' offices. For all the attention directed at Project 2025 and its theocratic plans for the country, many of those policies are already in place in the MAGA-captured heartland. My guest today has intimate first-hand experience in a couple areas where GOP religious nationalism directly affects Hoosiers' right to learn, to love, and to live freely. Sarah Blessing is a mother of three living in the small southern Indiana town of Palmyra, located in Harrison County about 30 miles northwest of Louisville. She has a master's degree in education and taught for 18 years in a Catholic school, mostly fifth grade. She will tell us what she saw as Indiana's voucher program directed public money toward private religious schools and the amount of personal control the church could exert on their employees' personal lives. Sarah also shares the harrowing story of her difficult pregnancies and the care she needed, which, in a post-Dobbs world, is now illegal in this state. Hoosier women facing the same situation now would be left to die by Indiana Republicans, and this is why she is running for State House of Representatives in District 70. Now, before we turn to that conversation, please consider supporting Who's Left with a financial contribution. I currently work as an independent craftsman during the day and work on this project whenever I can. There are so many more things I want to do here at Who's Left, more campaign finance research, maybe live hangouts if you're interested, a daily episode if we can get there, but I need your help. So if you can, visit scottaaronrogers.substack.com and subscribe at the paid level. For $5 a month or $50 a year, you can help me push our state in a better direction, and maybe if we reach critical mass, I can put down my tool belt and devote my full time to you, to this project, and to Indiana's future. So, if you have the means, pause right now, go to scottaaronrogers.substack.com, and subscribe at the paid level. And while the best way to help this project is monetarily, if that doesn't work for your budget at this time, you can still help. Subscribe at the free level over on Substack. Set your favorite podcast player to auto-download new episodes of the show. Rate and review the show on whatever platform you use. This trains the algorithm to help new people find us. Follow me on social media at facebook.com/whosleft. That's HOOS left. I'm also on Blue Sky, YouTube, and TikTok at the same handle. On Instagram, Threads, and Twitter, I'm at ScottRog78. That's SCOTTROG78. and on Mastodon at ScottRodge78 at Hoosier.social. Please subscribe on whichever platforms you use and send me a DM to discuss ideas for the project. But most importantly, share our message. Forward the articles to friends, family, and colleagues. Don't just like, but share on social media. Invite others to our little corner of the Indiana left. And I might be the guy with the microphone, but I try to take this thing where your input leads me, so please be generous with feedback, good, bad, or indifferent. I do value it all. To those who have joined this community already, especially those paid subscribers, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I am honored for your support. And to everybody, thanks for listening. The following was recorded on August 6th, 2024. Now here's my interview with Sarah Blessing. Sarah Blessing, welcome to the Who's Left podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, I like to begin every episode, every interview like this. Introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers.
So yeah, I'm Sarah Blessing. I'm a former teacher. I taught mostly fifth grade at a Catholic school for 18 years. I lived in mostly Floyd County, and then when I got remarried to my husband a while ago, say almost 9 years ago, I moved to Palmyra in Harrison County, and we have 3 children, and they go to the public schools here, and I am running for State House District 70, which is all of Harrison County, a little bit of Floyd, a little bit of Clark, and a good chunk of Washington County. This district is very heavily gerrymandered to be extremely rural. Even the lines changed 2 years ago. They took out most of Georgetown, which is where my opponent lives. They just kept her street in, and then gave me more of Washington
You love
County,
when they do that, right?
So, I mean, they are experts at this redrawing district lines. The county Republicans gerrymandered Harrison County pretty heavily as well. So it's been interesting seeing it happen, and you can't really do anything about it, and we just fight harder.
It stinks. Well, I'm glad you are stepping up to do something about it. You were caucused in late. This was going to be a uncontested race, wasn't it?
Yeah, I ran for county council 2 years ago to call out Parks Department corruption in Harrison County, and I did raise awareness. I did not win my race. No Democrats won in Harrison County 2 years ago. Even the few that we had got voted out. We don't even have a township advisory board now. And then I work with the leadership team in Harrison County Democrats. They're all my friends. I really love them. And I kept trying to recruit someone to run for this race. And I just realized right at the end, I think I'm the best, and I think I'm definitely better than nobody. So I got a hold of Adam Dickey, our chair of District 9, and I got a hold of Tim Peck, who's running for Congress in District 9, and they helped me, and I had some friends help me pull it together because it was kind of stressful, and I barely got in, so.
Yeah. That's fantastic. You were like, I don't want to have to do this myself. I don't want to have to do this myself. Damn it, I'm going to have to do this myself.
Yeah. And I'm glad I did. It's just hard because I have 3 kids. 2 of them are 5, but they're starting kindergarten tomorrow. And I'm really looking forward to having a chunk of time when they're at school to help with my campaign.
That is such a fun age.
Yeah. It's been really wonderful.
That's awesome. Tell me about Palmyra a little bit. I'm not familiar with that town. All I know is that I want to sing it like that Elvira song every time you say it.
I think it means palm tree in Hebrew, maybe. It means palm tree in some language. So this is a beautiful, tiny little town of around 900 people. It's right on 150. We have one 4-way stop, and there's a Save a Step with famous roasted chicken that everybody goes that for food because it's a decent price. And I love Palmyra. It's very rural. My next door neighbors, I'm close friends to, and then the other neighbors, it's a cemetery, and they're very quiet neighbors. And
behind the cemetery, yeah.
And we have a big yard with fruit trees and a garden. And I am like my kids have a bunch of friends in the neighborhood. It's not really a neighborhood, but it's just this tiny town, and they all play together. And I've really done a lot with the Palmyra Town Council. I've been to a lot of their meetings. I've recorded them. Sometimes I Facebook Live them, and I really try to help the two new members that just came into power in January. And we had a town council member that wasn't very nice. She was using her powers of town council to harm people in the community and like our utility workers and things. And I really had a good time shining a light on that corruption and getting her to stop. So it's small enough, and I am friends with these town council members, like their kids play with my kids, and we all help each other out. They're these two strong women in their 30s. And I've really enjoyed being able to see what they can do to help our town.
Yeah, it's nice in a way, with these small towns that everybody, and you can help the new people in, sort of carry on that
Yeah.
that institutional memory, of the town, as it were.
And living here has really changed my views on government. This area is lower income. We have two blessing boxes in our small town where we put food in it for people, and you put food in it and 10 minutes later it's gone. And I'm friends with a lot of people that I see struggle. I sometimes will I'll encourage them to make GoFundMe's, and I'll share the GoFundMe's and try to get them just to survive. And it's really put a fire inside of me to do more to help these people. For example, we have Duke Energy about ready to raise our energy bills. And I just found out about it a couple weeks ago. So I've been making posts about it. On Thursday, August 8th, so probably after this, there's supposed to be a town, not hall, I can't remember what the name of it is, but it's supposed to be where the people talk to the utility board members, and the utility board members are going to decide how much of an increase they're going to do. And it could be as much as $42 a month. And I'm very worried about this because I know my neighbors cannot afford $1 per month. Inside sources tell me it's probably going to be around $20 a month, and that is too much for them. So I found out that it's because of laws passed in Indiana in the last couple of years that have allowed energy companies to raise their prices for no reason. And I looked it up, and the person I'm up against, Karen Engelman, she voted for these measures to allow these energy companies increases. So this is going to be something I'm going to be talking about to everybody. So I see it hurting my neighbors. I'm upset. Everybody needs to know who is to blame.
Oh yeah. The energy industry in general in Indiana is very generous with their contributions to the Republican Party.
Yes. And I know they donate to like parks and things. There's a lot of like sponsors hanging up on things where they give something and they're like, hey, here's this policy we want you to sign into law. And they're just like, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's gross. It's gross. Well, I'm glad that you're speaking up, and a lot of citizens are speaking up against Duke specifically. We had a big town meeting up here in Bloomington a while back.
And it's Citizens Action Coalition. Is that what it's called? Citizens Action Coalition, I think, is a group that has been doing all these things. They're the ones that are organizing so well. So I'm thankful to them.
Yeah, and I'll double check that, and I will link that organization in the show notes too.
Thanks.
So, I want to talk about your professional life a little bit. You said you were a teacher for a long time.
Yeah, I thought I was going to be a teacher my whole life. Yeah.
Yeah, 5th grade at a Catholic school too, eh?
Yeah, so I got hired right out of I went to Bloomington and then IUS down here, Indiana University Southeast. And I got a job in New Albany. I'm not Catholic, but I'm Christian, and I got this job. I loved teaching. I really miss it. I miss the students. I was really able to do a lot in those 180 days for those kids, teach them empathy, get them a love for reading and learning, and just care about them. And I loved it. I started out, we did not have vouchers. And then a few years in, we started getting vouchers. And then as it went by, it was easier and easier to get vouchers. And I never fully understood until I got out of this school what this was doing to our public education. So it was really interesting seeing it from this. Isn't this great? Here, you can have a voucher. Oh, do you come? How much money do you make? We can get you a voucher. And it just seems now that I'm outside of it, I can't believe it's allowed. This is a Catholic school. We are going to church once or twice a week. There is an entire month of right to life propaganda forced down these kids. And I just cannot believe our taxpayer dollars are paying for not only some kids to go, but, parents that make, it's over $200,000 a year, they get to send their kids. And then it's just ripping the money away from public schools. So I'm horrified at the evolution of this. And I'm very worried about the public schools. But I really
all right, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, keep going.
I really love teaching. The things I didn't love that I don't think most people realize is I had to sign a religious contract every year. And it really put some things in there that restricted how I lived. So I got divorced when my child, Micah, was 2. I didn't know I was going to get divorced, but I kind of realized I was in a controlling marriage, and I was very lucky to get myself out. Well, when I was with my husband, I had to marry him before I moved in with him, or I could get fired. And I had a principal that was terrible at the time. I would categorize her as a Trump-like person that really likes power and control, and she wanted me to quit. And so she was using that as another thing of ammo. And so it forced me to time my wedding. It had to be a very short, very quick wedding to be timed with when I could sell my house. And then she was a person that liked Trump. This was during the election in 2016. And she told me I couldn't post anything on my social media about Bernie Sanders, that I needed to make sure I wasn't political. So she could control my life with that contract. And I know, you can't be gay. You could get fired if you're gay. There's a lot of things. And there's a lot of, depends on who the principal is or the priest or whatever, and how they're going to tell you how to live your life. So, our taxpayer money paying for teachers' salary, they're paying for this stuff. And we are controlled in religious ways.
I'll tell you, as somebody who's my most important issue is the separation of church and state. That is my number one thing. I've been doing a whole series on Christian nationalism this summer. That's crazy. They can control your whole life, and it bothers me to no end that public funds are paying for this. It's unconscionable.
I have no problem with anybody sending their kids to a Catholic school, none at all. But our taxpayer money should not go for things where religion is being taught. Yeah, I have a major problem with that. And the fact that it's stripping it from our schools around here in my area, in Palmyra and Harrison County, we cannot easily go to these schools. So charter schools, private schools where you get the vouchers, our kids need to be picked up by a bus and taken to a school that is free. And so, the fact that we openly know our Republican people in charge of our state are trying to destroy public education, what's that going to do to people that cannot afford to travel to these places? And so I'm deeply worried about that.
It sounds like conspiracy talk, to say, oh, they want to destroy public school. Who would destroy public schools? They got the twirling their mustache evil in the corner, right? But they definitely want to weaken them to the point where they can be privatized, right?
I mean, this is why Jennifer McCormick is running as a Democrat for governor. She was a Republican. She was doing all she could for schools, and they openly got rid of her job and said, what their plans were. They're not hiding it. They're hiding it from the state, maybe from voters, but from people that know what's going on. They are not hiding that they are adding requirements on to public education and not giving funding for those requirements. Let's make it harder, no extra money. Let's dumb down the diploma graduation now. And then let's add on training for teachers that they don't necessarily need and is very stressful for them, so that we don't get quality teachers pumped into Indiana anymore, because who wants to be a teacher in our state? I know I quit during the pandemic. I chose to do this instead. So, I am worried about getting quality educators. So far, I still see great teachers around, especially in my county. I just don't know how long we can hold on to it if we don't treat them better.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, not just education. We're struggling to keep talent in this state in every industry because of quality of life issues, because of government overreach into people's personal lives.
Yeah.
And it's ironic that the party of small government, right? Like they attack public education because it's public, right? It's all of us doing something together. Therefore, it's communism in their book. And yet they're perfectly comfortable with making decisions regarding your bedroom or your doctor's office.
Right. And another thing that doesn't get brought up enough, I think, is how many programs and services are available through public education that are not through private. So my son went to school with me until I quit. And then he went 1 year to Morgan to third grade to our public schools, right by my house. And then now he goes to North Harrison schools. And there are so many programs and services that he can do that were not available at that Catholic school. And they're not available in charter schools. And people don't talk about them enough. These are programs that are affordable. Sometimes they have to have a boosters or a nonprofit to help the sports or the band or the drama, but they raise the money and they have the things available for the students at affordable rates and a place to go that's safe. I mean, my child Micah is in marching band and he's really gotten a lot of he's really found his passion in music and in percussion. And so I'm really grateful that he has that opportunity at this public school.
They're eliminating that in a lot of places.
Yeah, that really terrifies me, because I'm really concerned about the mental health of our students, especially with our culture of needing to be perfect and not being allowed to mess up. The arts, drama, music.
Yeah.
This is how kids and adults deal with our stressful lives. And we definitely need that in our schools. And I think that would hurt our dropout rates. Kids are going to drop out. Sometimes they go to school for band or drama or art or sports, and yeah.
Yeah, that's like the only part of the day they're really looking forward to. It's like, they got to get through this other stuff to get to that, right? And it's also just about developing like a well-rounded whole human being and not just a cog.
Right. Yeah, it's like they're just pumping out workers. Let's pump out workers. They don't need to go to college. Let's just pump them into a job because we need jobs, or we need people to fill these jobs, and who cares about them? And it's like, no. We need to care about the child, and that will help our community as well as we should care about people. We should invest in these young people so that Indiana does better.
You always get way more for your money when you invest in your people, especially when you invest in your children. It sets up your community and your state for generations. And so much of the Republican agenda in Indianapolis is disinvesting from people.
Definitely. Yeah, and just the amount on corporations. I've really noticed warehouses, giant things just popping up everywhere. When I drive to Indianapolis, it's like half of Indianapolis is now all these warehouses. And I'm like, these weren't here a few years ago. And the fact that our water, we have the worst water out of all 50 states. And like, I found out listening to your podcast, I think it was Eric Hurt said that train in Ohio a couple years ago that crashed and had like toxic waste, it was coming to Indiana. It came to Indiana. So other states are dumping their toxic sludge into Indiana. And shocker, now we have the worst water in the state. So we have got to stop that this November and then change the laws and then start cleaning that up. I do not let my kids just openly play in open water. If they do, we immediately go take a shower, and I'm like, don't drink it because it's, we have the worst water in the country.
I mean, there's a little creek not far from my house, just right around the corner, and over the bridge, there's a sign like, "Do not eat anything you catch in this creek."
Yeah, I'm glad you have that sign because it is needed.
I believe you're not supposed to eat anything you catch in an Indiana river.
Oh wow.
And yeah, so boy, we briefly talked about Republicans overreaching into people's personal lives and into their bedrooms and doctors' offices, and Dobbs and Indiana, the abortion ban. We were, first ones out of the gate after Dobbs.
Yeah, I saw it coming. It was horrifying.
And that's what finally sort of like got me off my butt to start doing something politically, for the women in my life. And but you've got intensely personal reasons that this is an issue for you.
This is
talk about it, please.
I just want to say up front, if anybody is listening to this, you can use my story with anyone. You can mess it up. You can get my name wrong. I don't care, as long as you can get the basics right to teach people, because this is the biggest reason, this and public education are the biggest reasons why I ran, to try to stop this loss of freedom that our women have in Indiana. I have, in the span of 1 year, I have 2 things that happened that I could have died had they happened to me after this abortion ban. So I just want to say 20% of women have trouble having a baby. That's just worldwide. 20% of women struggle. I am one of those. It took 2.5 years to have my oldest, who's 14, Micah. And that pregnancy went pretty well. It was just a little scary at the end, but it was okay. I got divorced and I got remarried. And when Micah was 7, we were pretty excited to get pregnant. And like Micah couldn't wait to be a big brother, and the pregnancy was going fine. And it was around the 2nd trimester. I was going for a routine ultrasound. I'd had my husband and my son come with me to the appointment, and we get the ultrasound and we find out the baby died. There was no heartbeat. It was pretty devastating. I cried. I remember Micah telling me, "Don't worry, Mom, you have me. It's okay." And then my OBGYN, she says, "Sarah, we have to get this baby out or you could die." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." Because I really did not know. And she's like, "We're going to try to do this by a pill that you'll insert at home. And if it doesn't work, we'll do a DNC. I did not know this pill, mifepristone, this pill is what is now illegal. So the same pill that's used for abortion is the exact same pill used for miscarriage, and the government cannot tell the difference between one. So I get the pill at JC Pharmacy for a couple dollars. I remember it wasn't expensive. And I asked another teacher who had this happen, what happens? And she told me, and I'm glad I asked because it's not an easy process. So I think I waited a day until it was the weekend, and I inserted the pill, and then it was hours later. And I remember being in the bathroom, having my door shut, having the bedroom door shut. And I remember screaming so loudly that Micah and my husband could hear me. And I remember almost passing out, and my whole body broke out in sweat because it was very painful. And not only is it painful, but it's so heartbreaking because it's the baby you wanted. And it's hard for me to get pregnant. And I was so thankful I got pregnant. And I cannot imagine these women for the last 2 years in Indiana, when they have a miscarriage, they can't go to their doctor and get this pill. Their doctor has to say, you can't get this out until you are almost on death. You need to be septic or something. I can't give you this pill. And so then what most women end up doing now in Indiana is acting like a criminal and going on an underground network of text messages and contacts. And they have to contact another pharmacy doctor in another state, and they have to get the misoprostol mailed to them. This is breaking my heart. What I went through was terrible. The fact that these women are having to do this now, I know that at least 14 women in Indiana have died since the abortion ban has taken place. That is unacceptable. And I just want to throw out there too, this abortion ban that has exceptions like rape and incest. It is extremely difficult to prove rape and incest, especially when you're already not believing the woman that it was a miscarriage or whatever. So you're already treating the woman like a criminal, and then you're expecting her to go through all these exams and to get interrogated when this poor woman or young child is traumatized. It's just unfathomable to me, and I will not stop fighting.
Such a backlog. Our police can't keep up with the rape cases they have as it is. They don't take it seriously. They don't value women.
No. Yeah. And we are not like vessels to pump out babies. We are human beings. And it is crazy to me that this Right to Life group just acts like you should so readily die for your baby and be so happy to do so. I just don't understand why they think they can force that on people, especially like a 10, 12-year-old that's been raped. I don't understand it.
God wills it, right?
The religion aspect, we really need to get religion out of our government and our laws, and we need to let people be. Yeah. So then, so I have this miscarriage, and I'm very thankful because I shared it with people. I let people know I had a miscarriage. My friends comforted me. I got love. You can't do that in Indiana. You can't openly say I had a miscarriage now. You're going to have to keep that quiet. It's illegal. Abortion is illegal. They can't tell whether that was a miscarriage or an abortion. So, people cannot get open comfort. It's like I thought we lived in America, the free and the brave. So this is 2017. So then the end of 2017, after the miscarriage, my doctor gives me a medicine called Clomid because I have trouble ovulating. And that medicine increases your chance of getting multiples. Plus, I'm older. I'm 43 now, and my kids are almost 6. So I get pregnant right after Christmas. I can immediately tell I'm pregnant. I don't like coffee. I feel different. And I immediately get a migraine. That migraine does not go away. So I take the pregnancy test 2 weeks later, shows up I'm pregnant. I go to the doctor. They give me an ultrasound right away because I just had a miscarriage in, I think it was October. So it was only a few months later.
Mm-hmm.
I don't bring my child to this one. I don't want to traumatize him again. So it's just my husband and I. We find out in that ultrasound, I remember this was in January, that it's triplets. The ultrasound lady is so excited. She's like, I have never seen triplets before. This is incredible. I am going on like a 8-week migraine where I can't take migraine meds because they're not approved for pregnant women. So I wanted to have one child. One child already was hard enough, especially when you're in an unhappy marriage. So I was like, what? And then I'm just like, she's freaking out. I'm like in a state of, and my husband, he goes, he's like, we're going to need a bigger car. And I'm like, I can't go to the grocery with 3 babies. And then my husband's like, do we need a bigger house? And I'm like, I can't do anything with 3 babies. So, and then I start realizing, well, I wanted to have a full, healthy pregnancy and breastfeed and all these things. So all these issues are popping up. And then my doctor comes in and I'm like, oh, she can give me some hope. And she goes, wow, triplets. Okay, you can't come and see us. You got to go straight to a specialty pregnancy place. What do you call it? For high-risk pregnancies. You need to go to a high-risk pregnancy place. So I'm like, what? When I'm losing my doctor that I love. And so like it took me a little while to adjust, but what saved me was I did research and I found a book that a bunch of OBGYNs wrote about twins, triplets, quads or more. It was like this book that you can read, and it was fact-based on what to do with your diet and the best things you can do to keep those babies in there as long as possible. So I read that book and it told me to like eat a high protein diet, a lot of beef, which I don't normally do. And then I'm an exercise person for my stress exercise every day. It was like, oh, do as little exercising as possible. And then we go to the doctors, and very quickly we realize one of the triplets is not doing well. I think she was not completely connected in the umbilical cord because she just wasn't growing right. And so immediately, the entire pregnancy, I'm having these migraines. The migraines stayed until a few weeks after second trimester. So that was terrible.
Wow.
So I'm just worried. It's just stressful the whole time. Okay. So I'm reading this book. I'm following it as best I can. I'm trying to remain calm and positive. I know my mom is super worried that something's going to happen with me. And then as it gets closer, so we keep going to these appointments, and that little girl, she just keeps hanging on. We find out we have 2 girls and a boy, and one of the little girls, who we named Arwen, is just not doing well. It gets to the point where they start asking me what we want to do. So they start laying out scenarios. So they're like, so if the baby gets big enough for us to save, do you want us to deliver early, have a C-section early, risk the other 2, and maybe save this little one? I'm like, okay, this sounds terrible. Okay, what's the next scenario? Next scenario, we keep the babies as long as possible, and when they have to come out, we do C-section, and then the little girl, she's going to have major problems. Like, we know that. She's going to have major disabilities if she survives. Do you want to let her die? Or do you want us to do everything to save her? Or third option, we deliver whenever the babies are ready and we do everything we can to save her. So we had those 3 options. And we chose to keep the babies in as long as they can. Now, at week 29, she died. And they're all in their own sack. They weren't identical. So I have a very difficult pregnancy. I get that high blood pressure, what's it called?
Preeclampsia.
Yeah.
There we go.
I got that. I could barely walk. My feet were totally swollen. I felt horrible. I remember someone asked me, what are you most looking forward to about having the babies? And I said, being able to breathe. Because I couldn't lay flat. When I laid down in bed, I had to be on the side, and then you go, couldn't breathe. So I put on like 75 pounds because that's what that book said to do to help the babies not be preemie. So she dies at week 29. I get put into the hospital early, stay in the hospital for a few days, and then have an emergency or have a planned C-section early at week 34. So the babies are a little less than 6 weeks early. I almost die. It was really rough. I lost a ton of blood, but they didn't have to give me a blood transfusion because I followed that diet I ate so much proteins. So I got really lucky that I followed that book. It helped me a lot. Looking back now, okay, let's say this happened to me in the state of Indiana today with the abortion ban. And let's say politicians are in that doctor's room and they get to decide things. They could have decided that I killed my baby. They could have thought that. They could have treated me like a criminal. There's also the possibility that they could have forced me to deliver early to try to save that one, and it could have caused my twins to die. I don't know, because that was a very unique, creative, they're not creative, but very unique experience.
Mm-hmm.
And it was horrible. And it was stressful. And I'm so blessed now that I have my 3 children. I've got Adeline and Asher. They're almost 6. And then Micah. that's 14. And to think about going through that with the government involved in my body is just absolutely mind-boggling. This cannot happen. We cannot allow this. These people that are saying abortion should be illegal have no idea what they are talking about. They don't understand how dangerous it is to get pregnant. They don't understand how common it is to have a miscarriage, because it's in our culture. Things are getting better now, but it's been in our culture that you don't say that you're pregnant until so far along. You don't say you have a miscarriage. And it's like, I think that's all stupid. I think we should all be sharing whatever we want to share, because if a woman wants comfort, the woman deserves comfort, you know? But
everybody's got their own process. Yeah.
everybody should be able to do what they want, and the government should not tell us what to do. So I am okay with a woman deciding to have abortion. I'm not going to judge them at all. I understand if people want to be judgmental of that, then they should not have abortions. That's how I feel about it. But the thing that they're missing is, eventually, there's probably a chance that some woman that they love could get pregnant and something could go wrong, and this law could hurt them, could hurt their daughter, their granddaughter, whoever they care about. And I think many, many people in the state of Indiana still do not understand that it is not about abortion. It is about the government controlling women's bodies. They don't have medical degrees. They can't even name our body parts. They should not be in charge of our decisions for our body and our babies. And I will not rest until everybody in Indiana understands that, and until we get our rights back.
Damn right. You nailed it. These guys, and there are plenty of Republican women in the state legislature, but it's mostly men, think they know that they're experts on pregnancy. Your own OBGYN was not even an expert on that kind of pregnancy. Like that,
right? Yes.
So I mean that, yeah, the pregnancy experts are out of their depth for certain pregnancies, and you know, Todd Rokita and company are experts on this.
No, this is like, it's just absolutely disgusting. And it's not only regular people, it's people that want to control you. They want that control, and they seem to have a real lack of empathy for others. So they don't seem to care about your life. Yeah, it is such a problem.
It is a freedom issue. Not just,
I mean, it's exactly what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
They want to control us. There's a big religious component to that. They want to control women. They want women to have a bunch of children. They don't want us out in the workforce being equal. I mean, it really is that. They cover it up and act like it's baby killers. They just spark the fear in you. But really, it's about control and a lack of equality that I am definitely fighting. I mean, I have a daughter, and I will do anything to try to help it so that I can push things forward for her. Another thing I wanted to talk about that people might not realize, since I'm running as a candidate, I get all these surveys to fill out to see if I want to be endorsed by some group. So like, I got endorsed by a group that supports women's health. That was a really easy one. I got endorsed by a group that supports public education. Well, I got in the mail a pro-life endorsement, and I read it, and I thought it was a joke. And it was, I guess it's what Republican candidates fill out. And it had all these things like, do you agree that we should not have abortion, that the child heartbeat laws? It was all these things.
Mm-hmm.
And so you would be circling, yes, you would support all of the abortion bans, basically. But what shocked me was how much incorrect information was in that. So it helps me understand the right. It's not pro-life, right to life. That's it. It's the right to life movement. So the right to life movement really pushes out a lot of fake propaganda about pregnancy. And it helps me to understand why these Republicans are so terrible, because they're getting money from this group. They're getting endorsed. And in doing that, they're agreeing to make sure they're going to do these laws. And then they're reading things that wrong. And I think a lot of them think that they are correct. So it shows what I need to do and what everybody needs to do. We actually have to talk to people. We have to tell our stories. Like, you can tell my story, because we have to make sure they understand women and girls that they love could be hurt because of these people believing these false things.
Just thank you just so much for talking to me about it and just talking about this in general, because it's got to be incredibly difficult and emotional. And I hope your story can, help bring back women's rights in this state. So,
Yes.
so other women don't have to suffer and don't have to go through such ordeals.
Something that my mom is doing that I'm really proud of. I'm not religious, but my mom is Catholic, and a lot of people in my family and a lot of friends are pretty religious. She has been working on a flyer where she explains that she is a Christian and that she supports life, and that means supporting the mother's life and the baby's life, and that means getting government out. And so she's trying to explain it in a way that people that are religious, that are told the fake things, understand those fake things are not true, and you can be a Christian or Catholic or whatever religion and want the government not to be involved so that your loved ones do not get hurt. And so I'm proud of her for doing that, because that area is painful to me. It's hard when I talk to someone and they just think I should die for the kid, and like, they don't understand that abortion and losing your baby is the same. You can't tell the difference. And so
Yeah.
I'm glad she's working on it, because it's an area, that area is hard emotionally for me to talk to those people. So I'm glad she's taken that on.
Yeah. Talking to people is kind of another thing that I wanted to talk about with you. Messaging is an area Democrats have struggled with a lot, because
Yes.
theoretically, like, our positions on everything are more popular than Republican positions. And are we bad at talking to people? What's going
I'm
on?
going to say yes. I do think that Democrats have a messaging problem. When Trump won in 2016, I really saw the problem. People were like, I got it. If we can just show that Trump's wrong with all these documents and facts and really confusing data and make really long social media posts, we're going to get him. And then they're like, why didn't this work? And so, yes, Democrats have a messaging problem. We have got to talk to the people like they are people. I feel like we are talking to them like we are in a doctorate class or something. And we are trying to use the biggest words possible and maybe outsmart each other and be like, look how smart I am. You should vote for me because I'm so smart. And I just think that does not work. We need to simplify all of our messages, and we need to just state them clearly and effectively. So like with this energy crisis that we're talking about, with Duke Energy about ready to increase their bill, we don't need to throw all of the facts at them. We just talk to a voter and say, look, your energy bills are going up because the people that we've elected into Indiana to make our laws have passed laws that allow these energy companies to increase our prices for no reason. The only way to stop this is to vote better, different people in. And you just tell them that. You don't have to say it was this bill and this is what the bill said. We read the bill, we understand it, we simplify the message. I was talking to my mom was talking to a reporter friend. It's a retired reporter. And she was saying, my daughter talks around a 5th grade level. And he said for his newspaper, they wrote at a 3rd grade level.
Yep.
They did not use compound sentences. This is So even I need to tone down my message to make it not so confusing. We have got to understand most people are not political. They don't know everything like we do, and I don't know everything, but
Yeah.
I'm, in this world. We have got to do a better job of telling our message, and we don't have to tell them everything that's going to overwhelm them. We just need to tell them something that matters to them, and then maybe tell them another thing that matters to them, and then make sure they're registered to vote and that they know where to go.
Yeah. These guys are greedy. They're corrupt. They're picking your pockets, or they're setting up their donors to pick your pockets. They're weird. They're creepy. They want to know what's going on in your bedroom.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. That's good messaging. I think we're finally starting to get it.
I do too. I feel like people are getting it better. The other thing that is hard for me is people don't want to call out what the other side is doing. Like some people say, don't even say it. You just tell them your name. I'm like, no. I think it's perfectly okay for us to call out the politicians that are doing wrong. I think you can just say who I'm running against for the energy bill increases. Like my person, Karen Engelman, who I'm running against, she voted against abortion, even in cases of rape and incest, even in cases of that 10-year-old girl that came over from Ohio.
How? As a woman, can she? I don't know. I don't.
And again, I bet it's because she signed that weird right to life thing. I don't know. But my person I'm up against, Karen Engelman, she has taken just like so much money from the Republicans in her counties and super PACs in the state. I mean, my person's tied to Jamie Knoll. Have you heard of him?
Jamie Knoll, the former sheriff of Clark County, right?
Yeah. But he was also the Republican chair of District 9. So he had a lot of power. So my person is tied to that money, and he kind of went out of his way to protect her and keep her in that seat. For example, in the primary a couple months ago, she had a person run against her. The Clark County Republicans donated $90,000 to her campaign to prevent her primary opponent, which normally that's frowned upon. Normally you don't you don't give money during a primary. So anyway, I go ahead and say this stuff, and I recommend that other candidates and other people do too, because we do have an enemy in the state of Indiana. They are actively voting to hurt us. It's okay to call that out. I'm not saying anything about her as a person. I don't know anything about her as a person. I'm just calling out her voting record.
We've been taking the Michelle Obama, when they go low, we go high advice perhaps a little too seriously, trying to be high-minded and keep our messaging positive and not, attacking is beneath us somehow.
Right.
But I'm sorry, it's effective. It works. You might not like it.
It's true.
But
it's the truth.
It is, negative partisanship is effective. I mean, fear of the other guy winning is often way more motivating than winning yourself.
So there's two parts to that. So not only do I want to attack what they're doing, but I try to separate. They're different. They're not like us. They follow money and special interests. And then I try to talk to Republicans and regular people and people that aren't political, and just include them and welcome them into this big tent, like Jennifer McCormick says. So it's two parts. It's one, call out the shady thing. And then the other thing, invite them in, explain how much we have in common. Public schools, women's health, utilities, housing, those type of issues. So I think we need to do both of those, and it just kind of depends on where each person goes on that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we do have more in common than we do that separates us, but we just choose to focus on the big things that we disagree about. And that, there are certainly people who benefit from us fighting about those things instead of the things that we do agree about,
Yeah. And then the other thing that's been interesting that I found out, since I live in such a red county, I really just decided, all right, I'm going to meet good Republicans because the two town council members I work with at Palmyra, they're Republican. And then they kind of led me to some other politicians that are Republican that I had been told were MAGA and were scary. And they're like, they're not. And so I reached out to some. So I've made some friends in the county that are Republicans that sit on like county council, and one might be a commissioner soon, and are in town councils. And I've discovered that we are really led to believe we are so divided, since the pandemic and Trump, everything got super bad about how divided we are. And I am realizing there are a lot of Democrats terrified of Republicans, and there are a lot of Republicans terrified about Democrats for no reason.
Yeah.
There are a lot of great Republicans in my county, and I'm friends with some of them, and I hope to be friends with more. And I hope that they vote for me, and I hope that they vote for Jennifer McCormick and Tim Peck, and it's been really wonderful for my mental health to discover these people. They're out there working hard in the community. They're doing things to help people. They're helping getting them fed. They're helping people get clothes. Because again, I live in a county that the people are lower income here, and so this county is exceptional. I love Harrison County. I love the people. So many of them work really hard to help each other. And a lot of those people call themselves Republicans. And if you're listening and you are a Democrat and all your friends are Democrat and you just know everybody's MAGA, I'm telling you, they are not. A lot of them are quiet because the MAGA people are so loud.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to stir up conflict. And so they just keep quiet. But if you have a private conversation with them, you will find out their views do not align with Trump's. A lot of Republicans are embarrassed by him.
Well, what does it take, though, to get them to, not that we use levers anymore, but what get them to take to pull the other lever in November?
So this is going to be interesting. I want to see what it looks like when people actually go and vote. I have hope. I know my secret ingredient is just actually caring about people, opening up my heart and loving them, even if they voted for Trump 2 times. I just don't care. I just care about them anyway. And then just with the belief that they were fed false propaganda. It's not necessarily their fault. They took a social media path or a news path that led them down to these fear things. And it's not necessarily they're a bad person.
Yeah.
And so I just recommend everybody, right, just take an empathetic care about people. I am not perfect. I mess up all the time. I'm going to forgive myself, and I'm going to forgive you too, and like, that's my secret weapon. Like, I put hearts on a lot of my social media and my posts because I'm running because I love people and I want to save them and make Indiana better for them. And so that's me. That's authentic. I'm not making it up. And, hopefully that helps. Hopefully people can tell I care about them, and it's okay however they voted before. Let's just come together now because we have more in common than separates us.
Well, how can the other loving, caring people of Southern Indiana find out more about your campaign and maybe help you out, volunteer, donate?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I have a Facebook page called Sarah Blessing for State House 70. I would love for you to follow that. I'm also in the Indiana Rural Summit, and you can follow that on Facebook. And I'll be going on tour with them. And I definitely need money. I have an Act Blue, Sarah Blessing for State House 70. I would love some help there, any that you can help. I've got magnets, shirts, signs ordered, and I need money now for not mailers, but things to hand out when I door knock.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to print up a bunch of those if I can get the funding for it. And then if I can get enough funding, I want to do targeted ads on Facebook for the people in my district so I can get my message out to them. So yeah, I really appreciate what you're doing, Scott. I've learned a lot from your podcast. I think your podcast is exceptional. I know it's got to take you a lot of time, and I just want to say thank you for inviting me to be on it, and thank you for doing what you're doing. I hope it gives you hope, because it gives me hope listening and finding out stuff from all the people you interview and from you.
Oh, thank you, Sarah. I appreciate it. That means a lot to me, and I really just do appreciate what you do. You know, sticking your neck out there, and I also appreciate you joining me here tonight on the Who's Left podcast.
Thank you so much.
Once again, that was Sarah Blessing, Democratic candidate for Indiana State House of Representatives District 70, which includes all of Harrison, as well as parts of Clark, Floyd, and Washington counties, down there in the Louisville metro area part of the state. I am so grateful to Sarah for entrusting me with the story of her most painful, intimate moments, and I'm grateful that I get to share those with you. And even more so, I'm grateful that in her time of need, we still lived in an Indiana where she could receive the necessary care. Because we no longer live in that Indiana. And a Hoosier woman in a similar situation now might not live to tell her story. We live in an Indiana molded by a dozen years of stolen, gerrymandered Republican supermajority legislatures and 20 years of GOP leadership in the governor's mansion. We live in an Indiana that respects the sanctity of life by forcing women to deliver children into a state with some of the worst maternal mortality rates and infant mortality rates. And if mother and infant both survive, best of luck, in a state with the worst access to affordable child care and among the lowest educational attainment. Not to mention the dirtiest water and just about the dirtiest air, poor mental health, poor physical health, poor public health, and the second worst overall quality of life. Thanks for breaking our fall, Texas. We live in an Indiana where stranger things are afoot, and we've been sucked into an upside down, where religious liberty means imposing your beliefs on others, education, not indoctrination, means defunding public schools and funneling tax dollars into private Christian schools, and where pro-life means letting women die for want of medical treatment. This bizarro world is Mike Pence's Indiana. This is Todd Rokita's Indiana. This is Eric Holcomb and Todd Houston and Mitch Daniels, Indiana. And that's right, Mitch, don't think we forgot about you. We won't help launder your reputation as some sort of moderate centrist here. This is Dan Burton, Curtis Hill, and Karen Engelman's Indiana. This is Jim Banks, Indiana. This is Mike Braun and Micah Beckwith's Indiana. But what about our Indiana? Where we respect the art and science of teaching, pay our educators a salary they deserve, and let them do their jobs without threats from extremist groups. Where being pro-life does not end with birth, but begin there. With fresh air, clean water, and safe shelter guaranteed as rights because they are necessary for life. Where our elected officials don't believe that government is the problem, but can be a solution to some of our problems. But seriously, if you don't believe in the mission, why are you even there? And what about our Indiana with real religious liberty, where preachers stay in halls of worship and out of halls of power, where the border between church and state is secure? Build that wall. Thank you for listening. Thanks again to Sarah Blessing. Find her on Facebook at Sarah Blessing for State House 70 or on tour with the Indiana Rural Summit. Help her out, volunteer, donate. I will link her Act Blue page in the show notes. And if you're feeling extra generous after you've contributed to Sarah's campaign, head on over to scottaaronrogers.substack.com and help support this project with a paid subscription. That's where you'll find everything I publish, but you can also find me on Facebook, Blue Sky, YouTube, and TikTok at Who's Left, and on most other social media sites at ScottRog78. My DMs are open for feedback, tips, ideas, and concerns. You can also email me at scottrog78@gmail.com, forward the show to a friend, and have them forward it to another friend. Let's keep building this project and a democratic Indiana, brick by brick. Until next time, this has been the Who's Left podcast. I'm Scott Aaron Rogers. Love each other, Indiana.